Hundreds of anti-vaccine protesters blocked the streets of Canada's capital on Sunday, a day after thousands descended on the city, Ottawa, to protest against Prime Minister Justin Trudeau and COVID-19 vaccine mandates. Canada had imposed a mandate for the trucking industry 2 weeks ago. Under it, unvaccinated Canadian truckers re-entering the country from the U.S. must get tested for coronavirus and quarantine themselves. The weekend demonstration against that has shifted into one against the Trudeau government with a strong anti-vaccination streak. On Sunday, dozens of trucks and cars blocked streets near Canada's parliament. Some truckers said they would not leave until the mandate was overturned. Lawmakers are due to resume work after the holiday break on Monday. The protests on Saturday were peaceful with no arrests, though police said they were investigating several incidents. At a weekend rally in Texas, former U.S. President Donald Trump praised the protests in Ottawa as brave and called the mandates lawless. It's a sign that politicization of the pandemic, seen in the U.S., may have spread north of the border. Due to security concerns, Trudeau and his family left their Ottawa home on Saturday. Days before the convoy of trucker protesters arrived, he'd said they represented a small, fringe minority. About 90% of Canada's cross-border truckers and almost 79% of the population has had 2 COVID-19 vaccine shots. Canada is now in the middle of a spike in Omicron variant cases that is straining hospitals.
U.S. senators are very close to reaching a deal on legislation to sanction Russia over its actions regarding Ukraine, including some measures that may take effect before any invasion, 2 leading senators said on Sunday. Senators Bob Menendez, the Democratic chairman of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, and James Risch, the committee's top Republican, said they hope to move forward on the bill this week. Menendez added that there is strong bipartisan resolve to support Ukraine and punish Russia if it invades. Russia has been building up its forces on Ukraine's borders for months and has demanded NATO pull troops and weapons from Eastern Europe and bar Ukraine from ever joining the U.S.-led military alliance. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky supports immediate action and has criticized the West for waiting to impose more damaging sanctions. The U.S. Senate bill would target the most significant Russian banks and Russian sovereign debt, as well as provide more U.S. military assistance to Ukraine. Menendez said that some of the sanctions could take effect before any invasion by Russia because of what Moscow has already done, including cyber attacks on Ukraine and efforts to undermine the Ukrainian government internally. Meanwhile, British Prime Minister Boris Johnson on Sunday tweeted that the situation is increasingly concerning and urged Russia to engage in negotiations. Johnson said he has ordered British armed forces to prepare to deploy across Europe next week to support NATO allies. The Prime Minister is also due to visit the region this week and will speak by phone to Russian President Vladimir Putin.
North Korea confirmed Monday it had tested what's thought to be its most powerful nuclear-capable missile since 2017. It's a move that both the U.S. and South Korea have warned could lead to resumed testing of long-range weapons and nuclear bombs. State media KCNA released these space-based photos of its Hwasong-12 intermediate-range ballistic missile in a test it said was conducted bearing in mind the safety of neighboring countries. South Korea and Japan, however, condemned it as a threat to regional security on Sunday. South Korean President Moon Jae-in said the latest launch brings Pyongyang a step closer to fully scrapping a self-imposed moratorium on its longest-range intercontinental ballistic missiles, which Pyongyang had announced in 2018. North Korean leader Kim Jong-un, however, says he is no longer bound by it. Washington shared Seoul's concerns on Sunday, as one senior U.S. official said these latest actions were a means to, quote, increase pressure. That's as Washington has urged Pyongyang to join direct talks with no preconditions. Sunday's launch was the country's 7th missile test in January alone, making it one of the busiest months ever for North Korea's missile program.
A UN report seen by Reuters says the Taliban and its allies are believed to have killed scores of former Afghan officials, security force members, and people who worked with the international military contingent.
6 months after the takeover by the Taliban, Afghanistan is hanging by a thread.
UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres' report to the UN Security Council paints a picture of worsening living conditions for Afghanistan's 39 million people, despite an end of combat after the Taliban's takeover in August. Guterres described the situation as, quote, an entire complex social and economic system shutting down. The report is the latest in a series of warnings the UN chief has issued in recent months about the humanitarian and economic crises that accelerated after the Taliban seized Kabul. Guterres recommended the Council approve a restructuring of the UN mission to deal with the situation, including the creation of a new human rights monitoring unit. Despite a general amnesty announced by the Taliban, the UN mission has determined that, since August 15th, more than 100 former officials, security force members, and people who worked for the U.S.-led international military contingent have been killed, over two-thirds of them allegedly by the Taliban or their affiliates. The mission added that, quote, human rights defenders and media workers continue to come under attack, intimidation, harassment, arbitrary arrest, ill treatment, and killings. Meanwhile, U.S. President Joe Biden on Sunday called on the Taliban rulers to release a U.S. civil engineer who was abducted 2 years ago and is believed to be the last American hostage held by the Taliban. Monday marks the Americans' second year in captivity.